So it's December 20th, and you've probably already got that Christmas meal on your mind. The mince pies, the chocolates, the sweets, the gifts. And it's an exciting time of the year for most of us. But you're going to be telling yourself that, I'll just sort my fitness journey out when it gets to January. And in today's episode, I want to hit you with some hard truths. That these next 2 weeks, whether you're off for the Christmas week or the New Year week, the last 2 weeks in December, again, is arguably one of the best times to start. Now, with that being said, there isn't a best time to start. The most important thing is that you start. But I want to be I want to convince you otherwise, that rather than wait until January, now is a good time to start putting to practice some habits and some things that you're going to do anyway, because there's something that you're not happy with, or there's something that you truly want to change, and that starts now. So why start next week? The clean slate, as it's referred to. New year, new you. Well, what about new year and it's the same you, because you've built momentum going into that year? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Now, if you don't know what's going on here and you're like, why have you just released an episode on Friday? Well, every single day I've been releasing episodes at 6 a.m. and so far we've covered off a variety of topics, from the mentality to the nutrition to the workouts, and all of this leads up to today's episode. So by now, if you haven't already listened to those episodes, then consider giving them a watch and after listening to this episode or watching this episode. But if you have, hopefully this makes a little bit more sense. Sound like Mike Tyson there. Hopefully this makes more sense. And as we go into the rest of this episode in these next couple of weeks, you've got a better action plan on what to tackle. Right, so here's why these next 2 weeks matter. You're not necessarily busy. Now, you'll have plans, and most of us do. In fact, it's even before I go into this, there's another Scottish content creator called The Fitness Chef, and love his videos, but he put up such a powerful video the other day highlighting the importance of the time that we spend on Earth, right? And this can be quite morbid, right? So you might want to skip over this if this kind of stuff freaks you out. But let's say you're like me and you're the average 30-year-old, and let's say you're lucky and the life expectancy for the average man and woman is somewhere around 80 years old, right? So that means I've got 50 years left on this planet. Now, hear me out with this one, but most people have 4 weeks annual leave, and most people take a week or 2 weeks at the Christmas period, right? So that's 2 weeks. Let's average this out. So we've got 2 weeks for every year. So 2 times 50, well, you bet. Don't need the calculator for that one. That gives us 100. So we have 100 weeks left of however many weeks that 50 times 52. Yeah, so we've got 2,600 weeks left of living on this earth, and just 100 of them are going to be spent where we are spending it on the festive season, the Christmas period, the New Year period. And there's an argument to make that in the grand scheme of things, you don't quite fuck it just by spending a bit more lunch dates, dinner dates, food and all that sort of stuff, but we've already covered off all that sort of things. But when it comes to our fitness and our health, and hearing those numbers, you can start to maybe get a bit freaked out. And look, rightly so. Like, what was wrong with my S's today? Rightly so. I don't want you to be paranoid. I don't want you to feel depressed and anxious. But the longer we wait, the harder the challenge then becomes. And there's an argument to be said that all challenges, the harder the challenge, the sort of better the reward. And in some cases that can be true. But putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, every single client that I've had through the doors always say something along the same lines to me. And it goes like, man, I wish I started this sooner. And we always wish we started it sooner, because we just don't know what's on the other part of the climb. That little kind of ridge in the mountain that we're climbing up, we just don't know what's over that, what the view looks like. And until we get there, we're like, oh man, this feels so good. So it's that knowing of unknown, should I say. And that's what's going to hold a lot of people back as to why they would start, or why it's not worked for them. And we've got an episode that we're going to cover off on how to make sure that this sticks going forward, because you don't want to be part of the sad statistic out there, which is the 80% or somewhere around all statistics I believe are made up at the end of the day, but it highlights the importance that a majority of people, that start their fitness journey in January are no longer doing the fitness journey goals that they set out to do by February. So in space of 4 weeks. Now, there's a number of reasons why that happens, and usually it's to do with these next couple of weeks. So the whole mentality of fuck it, like I'll wait till January, I'll train harder in January, then unlocks this part of your brain that when you're eating food and you're drinking and you're out with friends at this time of year, you know that you're going to do something fitness wise, so you kind of send it a little bit harder than what you normally would, rather than just enjoying yourself guilt free. Like, there's a mentality that pushes you. It's not just one chocolate, it's all 10 of them. Or it's not just 5 cookies, it's 20. Like, there's this sort of obsession and this bad behaviour that is then built up around the consumption of food, the alcohol, whatever else it is that's going on. And not to mention, like, you've probably already got your, well, Squid Game 2 is coming out, and I'm excited to just binge watch that whole season. But there's some strategies we're going to bring into play to still be able to enjoy this is the contradictory thing that people don't realise. Just because you're working on your fitness, or you're going to the gym, you're doing your mobility sessions, you go out or walk or run, whatever it is, people see that as you're not enjoying yourself. Who says who? That is a factor of enjoyment. That can be a factor of enjoyment if you're in the right mentality, if you're speaking to yourself in a kind of kind way and you're not doing it out of hate. And I know that sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's so true. Like, if you're doing it out of punishment, it's not going to last, because you've tried it. You've tried it for the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and it ain't worked so far, so why is it going to work now? So changing and reframing how you're looking at these pursuits, whether it's a 10-minute walk or it's a 30-minute run, like, all of these can have its part to play over these next couple of weeks. And here's why it matters. The time of the year that you're taking off here is usually to kind of unwind, and just because of the time of the year, you're seeing all these reminiscent posts, you start thinking about family members who've maybe sadly passed on, or friends and loved ones and past relationships, or whatever it is, right? There's a lot of mixed emotions, and the last thing that is going to go against your mixed emotions will be sitting about the house and being just kind of diving deeper and sitting with those uncomfortable feelings and not taking action off it in the back of it. Now, more so the stress management, because with that can come stress, the feeling of not being good enough. And I wonder, with every reflection exercise that people do we ever not feel that we are good enough? And that's something I want to challenge myself on when me and Jill sit down next week and we do our reflection on the year and set some goals for the next year. It's one thing I want to make sure that we take pride in, of all the achievements that certainly happened. And that's why that can be a powerful exercise. But again, a wee bit of foreshadowing. We've got that coming up, and I'll help you guys and walk you through that. Okay, here's why these next 2 weeks are pretty important. You're not as busy, right? I said that. People are off work, the schools aren't on, there's not the school runs, the school clubs. There's a lot of free time, and within that free time, there is opportunity to look at starting to build. There's some habits that you would maybe want to include into your day-to-day life but haven't already done so. This is the time to trial them out. And the secret to consistency, discipline, motivation, whatever you want to classify that as, is reps, repetition. There is strength in repetition, and the more you repeat something, the better you get good at it. Now, let's say I want to go a 10-minute walk every morning. I do it Monday, I do it Tuesday, can't do it Wednesday, didn't do it Thursday, Friday, back off the wagon. So then you start building up a bit of habits, right? Okay, what happened? What was the reason that Wednesday never went ahead? Insert reason. How do you overcome that reason? Can you overcome that reason? Most likely you can. Go again. I go Monday, I go Tuesday, I go Wednesday, I go Thursday. Oh fuck, I missed Friday. Same process. Repeating the process. There's only 52 weeks in a year. Before you know it, you've got momentum going into that new year, and you're already starting on a stronger foot than what you would have if you hadn't, because you've put to practice some things that you want to include. And when you do it, the hardest challenge with all these habits, good habits, fitness goals, whatever it is to be able to do them when life's so manic with your work schedule, your kids' schedule, your friends' schedule, your family schedule. It's so much harder to do at that point. So use the opportunity where you've got more free time to work on some things that can give you that boost of energy and ultimately invest in yourself. And why wouldn't you want to invest in yourself when there isn't much chaos going around in your life? Okay, next one is the sort of festive excuse. Now, I've touched on this already. The festive excuse is the whole clean slate. Oh, I'm going to be doing it in January anyway. So, as I said, it kind of allow it open for some people, and then I've seen this happen with close friends of mine. They dive deeper into this binge and start not even creating habits. They're just re-emphasising that whole method of, I'm going to start in January anyway, so I'm just going to send it. And the more they send it, the harder they then try and start in January. And then the scales are tipped. They're so balanced to one side and they go so extreme to the other that it only lasts a couple of weeks until they burn out. So you start to see a picture here as to why this happens. So the festive excuse will set you back, and it will create this overindulging sort of mentality. Paired that with inactivity, that often will leave you to feeling sluggish and not even wanting to start in January, because it sort of takes you longer to get out that traditional hangover that you would normally get at the weekends from past drinking experiences throughout the year. The ones during the Christmas period hit harder because they're normally backed up with several days or a couple of days back to back, and the just time spent off work, the leftovers that you're having for breakfast, you're then not having whole foods and you're just having chocolate for lunch. Like, they're all good things to have in moderation. Like, I'm not going to sit here in my high horse and say I don't have chocolate for breakfast during the Christmas period. I absolutely do, but I still have my eggs and bacon because I know the importance that I need to kind of retain that muscle mass, because if I lose my muscle mass, and then I'm going to see this dip in energy, and if I'm not hitting my fibre, then my digestion's going to be thrown off, and it's just this downward spiral that I'm trying to nip, I'm trying to pause. So that's one side of the things. The last things is sort of the momentum. I think I said this on one of the previous episodes. Imagine a runway, okay, of a plane taking off. The shorter the runway, the harder it is for that plane to take off. So what you're doing here is you're creating that longer runway. And the more runway you create when it comes to insert fitness goal or insert health goal, the better chances you are of taking off and being in cruise control or fly mode. I'm not even obviously I'm not a pilot here. I don't know what goes on, but I'm assuming there's some sort of autopilot mode. So there's maybe a little bit more manual intervention on the takeoff, but the longer the runway, the easier that is to do, and the quicker you can go into autopilot mode. And before you know it, you're doing some of these habits as second nature to you. And that is such a great position to be in. I actually get some buzz from when I see my clients, and they're just, they start complaining about other things. They're like, oh man, Dale, I missed my 4th gym session this week. And I was like, okay, I love the fact that you're disappointed that you missed it, but don't let that rob you from the greatness that you've already achieved this week, because you've got 3 workouts in. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Just 4 months ago, you had 0 workouts on a consistent basis, and now you're consistently hitting 3. So it's such a great place to be in, and this is the power of starting now. If you start building a couple of habits going into the new year or up to new year, then you'll feel better for it. And it also gives you a layer of confidence that can't be questioned. You can't buy it. No one can take it away from you, because you've said you would do something and you've done it. Okay, let's talk about the festive plan then. What is some focus areas to work on? I've wrote down 3, but as always, I might throw in a curveball just as my brain goes somewhere else. So the first one, which is a pretty obvious one, and it's going to be keep moving. Keep it simple, right? I would say, back to the nutrition episode I've done, the 10 to 15 minute walk after every meal is it's a beacon of just so many benefits. Like, genuinely so many benefits, from improved energy, better digestion, and just gets the cogs working. So the 10 to 15 minute movement on a daily basis is something to do it. And as I said earlier on, mark it. The most important thing we do with the festive plan, or whatever you want to call this, is find a way to track it. Get a calendar and write day 1, tick. Day 2, tick. Just write Monday to Sunday, and then have a wee table, week 1, week 2. And for these next 14 days, you're just going to try and hit as many days as you can. And there's going to be days where you don't, right? And it's just life. Life's going to get in this way. You're at the stage just now, especially if you're trying to build better habits for the lifestyle that you want to live, then you're kind of on the back foot starting now. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't start. And what I mean by that is, so I've got a number of clients I've been working with for the last 6 months to a year to 2 years, 3 years. They're going to be better equipped going into these next 2 weeks because there's a bunch of things where they know what's the right sort of things to chase after at this time of year. For you, you're kind of new at this. So an example might be that you're saying to yourself, I'm going to do a 30-minute walk every single day. And you actually find it quite challenging to get 30 minutes in one bout. So that goal might, or that habit might need to be adjusted to 20 minutes, to 15, to 10, whatever it is. Monitor it and make the adjustments as necessary. Now, the self-doubt side of things is probably the biggest thing that's going to trip you up here, because you're going to start strong. You're going to be, here, I'm motivated. So this episode's out on a Friday. Do it from today, right? Pick one of these, or pick 3 of these focus areas. Pick one habit from each of them and start today. And start just tracking it every morning, or before you go to bed at night. Pick one of those 2 and just tick or cross if you didn't get it. Now, the self-doubt's going to start creeping in when you're highly motivated and you do it on day 1. And then day 2, and then day 3 is usually where people miss. On day 3, when you miss, this is a decision that's going to be, you bring this to the forefront of your mind. You're going to tell yourself, I'm just going to wait to January. What's the point? But that is the kind of older mentality starting to creep in. So just remind yourself why you're doing this in the first place. A good, strong why will get you through this. And if you've got kids or you're very close to your family, then that should be part of it. You can't show up for them if you're not showing up for yourself. And it's all well and good putting others first, but until or when, hopefully it doesn't happen to you, but you have a health problem or you have a quality of life issue that could have been dramatically reduced by strength training and working on your fitness, which we all know, then you're going to be an instant regret at that point. And by then, it might be too late. So movement is probably the first one. I would say walks are great. Walks are the best thing that everybody should be doing at this time of year, because you can do it with your friends and you can also do it with your family. It doesn't matter if you've got a newborn baby or if you've got a 10-year-old. Well, imagine the 10-year-old might not want to go out a walk, but make it kind of fun, like make it a bonding experience. This is how I started this whole kind of 10-15 minute walk, and I didn't really care for steps back in the day, but this was something that I implemented because me and Gillian were like passing ships in our jobs that we had when we lived down in England, and we decided to leave the phones in the house and just go a walk after dinner every night. And I really enjoyed that because that was our time where we'd speak and we'd connect. Now we're in a position where we see each other every single day and we're interacting every day, but the challenge is almost different because we see each other all the time. It's like, right, let's make sure we implement these times where we actually are connecting. So date nights and all these sorts of things. So walks is a good one. Of course, I'm going to mention mobility here as well. And the mobility counts as movement. So if you're really struggling to leave the house because you are watching after the wee ones and they're showing no interest to go out, then break it down and get a couple of mobility drills done. Back to the last episode, there's links there to some of my favourite mobility drills to do. Just look up anything. Like if you've got, most people have lower back stiffness, tightness, whatever you want to call it, knee pain, ankle pain. So we can all benefit from something to do with our lower back. And if we look up 3 best stretches for our lower back, you're going to see that you could probably do them in the house and it's only going to take you a couple of minutes. Give them a try, fire up YouTube on the TV and just let it rip. So that's one side of it. Now the movement side could also be if you're wanting to make a stab at getting back into the gym. Go back to, in fact, I'll leave the link below these episodes as well, or this episode, where there was a 15-minute workout and there was a full body workout. Pick one of those 2, because strength training and resistance training is a great thing to be doing at this time of year, because gyms are quieter and it allows you to get over the biggest fear that stops a lot of people from starting in January is, 1, the busyness and just the fear of going into a new environment. So if you can make way of already getting into the gym, that means you're adapted to that environment, whether it's busy or whether it's not going to phase you as much because you've went through the process of, right, the keypad's there, I need to walk up these stairs, I know the treadmills are over there, and I know the machine and the barbells and the dumbbells where I need to go are over there. Just that decision fatigue alone, you don't have that when you come January. Because imagine coming into January and you haven't made a stab at getting into the gym. You've got the fear of, where do I go? What do I do? I've not got a plan. Then It's also extremely busy. And then as you're walking to the gym, you can't get parked. And there's just all these things going through your head. And you're like, am I at the right place? That it's even harder to navigate your way through that than what it's going to be over the next couple of weeks. Still going to be challenging, but ultimately it's going to be easier than where you would start in January. Now, I mentioned a plan there, so have a plan. If you don't know what workouts to do, or if you want to go in and do your own thing, then feel free to, but it's obviously not worked for you so far. So you need a structure. And with that structure, as I said, the link below, there's a full body workout, which might take like 45 minutes-ish, and there is a 15-minute workout. Pick one or two of them. In the 15-minute workouts, I've gave you 3 variations, so you can pick one that's best suited for you. And here, at least it gives you a structure to follow. You might want to skip a few exercises. Whatever it is, do your thing. The most important thing is getting some sort of strength training or resistance training inside that gym over the next couple of weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4 sessions over a 12-day period. It's more than enough, right? It's enough to get everything, get that momentum building. Okay, how do we balance enjoyment with intention, right? So we've got festive meals, we've got tons of lunches and dinners and whatever. Well, the reality is it's going to be similar to the points I brought up before. So you've got hydration, it's going to be a big one, especially if you're consuming alcohol. And then the order that you eat your plate can generally just be that's the kind of go-to. So have a glass of water with your meal. If you feel like you're at a buffet, or you feel that you're going to have a second and fourth, maybe you're the type of person that orders a couple of dishes, then cool. But at the end of the day, it needs to be guilt-free. So there should be no guilt, or there should be no tendencies to, because you've ate and drank a lot, that you're going into the gym to punish yourself the next day. Okay, we need to break that cycle. We're here to enjoy Christmas, and as I said, it's maybe 150 to 100 weeks of your life. So you only have 50 to 100 of these left if you're in your 30s, more or less. And this is the time to enjoy those experiences without any guilt attached to it. Okay, and the last sort of focus area is making sure that we have these wee wins, right? And the wee wins, or the tiny goals, are going to make you feel good that you've achieved something. You've said you would do something and you've done it. Now, in the past, I've said make these so stupidly simple that it almost becomes laughable if you don't hit them. Making your bed, brushing your teeth. Some of these things generally could be them. I would say set one around the movement goal. Set one around something to do with nutrition, right? Nutrition could be have a piece of fruit for the day. Have a piece of fruit and dark chocolate. Make sure that you're having a protein-based meal. Make sure you have X amount of grams of protein. Whatever it is that you choose to do, just pick something that you think you can stick to for the next 12 days and give it a bash. Now, the most important thing is that you track this, right? So that's the nutrition. We've got a movement goal. So the movement goal can be the 10 to 15 minutes after every meal. It can be a step target. It can be that, it can be anything. It could be, I want to do X amount of mobility sessions. I would say the mobility and the steps, although that's movement, separate them as their own goal. I want to do these 2 mobility drills every single day, first thing in the morning. I want to do this many steps. So have them as their own individual goals. And the last one I would say is, just because the hydration is so important for everything to work, essentially, and the likelihood is at this time of year you're going to be more dehydrated, start your day with a glass of water. That's a nice easy one. Every time you have a meal, make sure you have a glass of water with it. And then when it gets to the end of the day, did you do that? Tick. Did you not? Cross. And just be brutally honest with yourself. Starting day one, tick, cross, tick, cross. When you're 3 days in, every 3-4 days, review. If you're on a 3-day win streak, brilliant. If you're on a 3-day losing streak, however, I would say that you need to rein it in and reduce some of the targets. So in this example, let's say you set a target of 8,000 steps, and you're like, no, I can definitely hit that. You don't hit it in day one. You don't hit it day two. You keep telling yourself you can hit it. Reduce it, because it's not about necessarily the target. It's about the momentum of doing what you said you would do. Like, I can't explain to you how powerful that is, because it builds momentum, it builds confidence, and it builds the reassurance that you can do something. Because you're in the position you're in just now because you've tried several fucking different things, mainly from the industry that I'm in, that have made you believe that that is the best way to lose fat because it's worked for a chunk of people and it's not worked for you. And because it's not worked for you, you're telling yourself that it's you're the problem. You just need to be overweight. You just need to be unhealthy. The gym's not for you. The gym's for everyone. Resistance training is for everyone. We can all improve our quality of life. And it does start with you making the decisions, but that doesn't mean you're a failure just because you've set a target and not met those targets. Reduce the target, bring it down a little bit, because the problem isn't reaching for, it's like looking at, and the best explanation that I've seen this in person, and sorry to my brother here, I'll have to call him out, but kind of forced his hand to come on a hill climb with us. And the hill climb was relatively steep. It was short, it was sharp, but the first time doing a hill climb, maybe too much out of his comfort zone. There's also a sheet of ice everywhere. Anyway, you could see the top of the mountain, right? Or the hill. I think it's classed as a Monroe. So you walk up a very steep start to begin with, and it's only like 10 to, I think it took us about 20 minutes, and we get up to a flat bit, and we've climbed a significant height at this point, and he turned to me and he's like, this is terrible. He's like, I can't do this. So the mindset, the doubt, all that's all creeping in just now. And he's like, are we far from the top? So I'm doing the usual thing as any coach would do in this scenario. No, it's just like, you've only got another half an hour of what that is, right? And generally speaking, it was no far off, but it was a hard ascent. And he's like, right, cool. So his head's down, he goes up the next bit. Now, once we got to the top of the next bit, he looks up and the clouds open up and it exposes this big fuck off mountain, this big hill or Monroe right in the peak. And he's like, is that where we were going? And I'm like, yeah. Straight away, he taps out and he's like, give me the keys, I'm going back to the car. And in fairness, this is an example where sometimes the goal can be set too high. And because there's no stepping stones to get you up to that, you see the top of the hill and you're like, I can never do that. Now, the great thing about this story is, a year on from this, we do Conic Hill. And Conic Hill, again, he's got the same challenge. Like every corner we're turning, he's like, I can't climb that. That's too steep for me. So we worked on the practices because we knew at this point he was fit enough. We knew he was strong enough. We just need to work on the endurance, that uncomfortable feeling. And what I said to him was, keep your head down and just focus on those 2 steps in front of you. And I set a timer on my watch and I said, we're going to walk for 45 minutes. So we walked 45 minutes, and before we know it, you look up and you look back and you're like, wow, I didn't realise how far I came in that short space of time. So then you start breaking it down, and now the climb seems way more achievable. That's what you're doing with these sort of tracking metrics here. You're tracking the simplest of activities to create the momentum, create the assurance that you're on the right path and you're doing it. Now, what you decide to do as those habits is entirely up to you. This is why a good coach can be nice to have in your corner, or just relaying it out to your friends to see what do they think is some of the targets. But the target should always move, right? So if you get the green streak 7 days in a row, then consider, can you make any of those targets a little bit more challenging? That next little push, 8,000 steps to 8,500 steps, 8,000 steps to 9,000 steps, 1 mobility drill to 3. Until you start feeling that you're in a good place and it becomes second nature to you. So that pretty much covers the sort of key focus areas to consider over these next couple of weeks. Now, we need to be realistic as well. We got Christmas, we got New Year's parties, lunches, events, whatever's going on. So the goals that you're setting for yourself, make them realistic. And that's why if it's around something movement, it's a good thing to move every day regardless of what's going on. If it's around nutrition, we need to eat every single day. So it makes sense to have something that ticks that box. Hydration, we need hydration to be alive. So again, putting something in place with that. So Monday to Friday of the Christmas week. In fact, the only thing I'll say with the realistic game plan here is Christmas Day is Christmas Day, right? Think about traditions that you want to include, right? Or what you want to start doing. You kind of roped into maybe traditions that your family's had, and maybe you want to stick to them, which is fascinating. One thing I'd done a couple of years ago, I think I mentioned this on one of the earlier episodes, was implement Christmas Day walks or a Christmas Day workout. I started doing Christmas Day workouts when I got a garage gym. Not because I was like, oh, I'm better than everyone else. It felt good. And we sort of trained what we want, and we got each person to pick an exercise, and we had a bit of fun with it. Make some sort of tradition fun that involves fitness, involves exercises, involves the walk, or the who can hold the mobility drill the longest, who can do this, let's do this together. So it can be anything, and that's a good thing to have on Christmas Day or around Christmas Day. You don't have to, as I said, the main thing is there's no guilt. you just enjoy it. So, to recap there is a myth with starting in January. January isn't a magic fix. It's an arbitrary number and it's a psychological game. So if you can overcome that psychological game and get more run on the runway, then you're more likely to take off and, more importantly, stick to it this time. And that's what we're going to help you on the next week, on the next episode. How do you make sure that when you stick to those goals in 2025, that they actually stick, right? So got some tips to help you around that. But you don't need to be perfect this time of year. The main thing is that you're starting, and have fun with it. Enjoy it. It's about balance. Life isn't to be so dogmatic of, I need to get my 65-minute gym workout in. The main thing is that you're doing things that fulfill your cup, fill your bucket of the things that you want to do. And most things that we want to do is travel or see family, connect with friends, but we can't do any of that if we have a poor quality of life. So we need to have an element dedicated towards our health and our fitness that helps with that. So with that being said, I think that's a good point to wrap up on. These next 2 weeks, it's not just a break, they're an opportunity, right? They're an opportunity to get better as an individual and also enjoy the balance of life and reflect on all the good that's happened this year. You are good enough and you can do it. I believe in you. And if you don't believe in yourself, then look, reach out to me. Let me help you. If you're really, really struggling with what to do and you're maybe overwhelmed of what sort of habits to do, honestly, reach out to my Instagram at Coach Crossar. We'll have a conversation. We'll see if there's anything we can put in place to make you feel better over these next couple of weeks. And as long as you take one piece of advice, and for the rest of you guys, as long as you take one piece of advice away from this podcast, then that's all I really care about. Try to help as many people as I can, and it just starts with one person. So with that being said, as I said, the next episode is going to be the follow-up to goal setting and how to make sure that we are killing it in 2025. So thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the podcast, consider sharing it. Leave me a comment. Let me know how you're enjoying the episodes. And remember, one of the next episodes coming up is a Q&A episode, so keep an eye on my Instagram, ask questions or DM me privately. Of course, I'll keep them anonymous if you want them anonymous. And until the next episode, have a great day.